Hey there, interwebs, and welcome to episode 1 of Flagshaming, my new series where I look at every state flag, shame the bad designs, and offer my best stab at a replacement. We've got over 4 dozen in total to look at, so let's just dive right in. Number 1. Delaware. Ugh, so we start as we mean to go on. First of all, shame! Those colors are officially buff and colonial blue and come from George Washington's uniform, but most people would just call them muted shades of yellow and green. The date at the bottom is when Delaware became the first state to ratify the Constitution, and the center features the state's coat of arms, but not technically the seal. The actual charge from the seal is party per fess, or and argent, the first charged with a garb bendwise dexter, and an ear of maize bendwise sinister, both proper, the second charged with an ox staten ruminating proper, and the fess wavy azure. For those of you who don't speak blazon, and why would you, that just means it's a yellow stripe on top, with a wheat sheaf and an ear of corn, a wavy blue stripe in the middle, and an ox eating grass on a white stripe on the bottom. Agriculture plays a big part throughout the entire achievement. For my redesign, I've kept the wavy blue middle stripe to represent the Delaware River as it originally did, and repurposed the green and yellow to represent grass and crops such as wheat and corn on either side in a nod to the heraldic charge. The single diamond in the center comes from the buff portion of their current design, and references 2 of the state nicknames, the First State and the Diamond State. According to local legend, Thomas Jefferson described Delaware as a jewel among states due to its strategic location on the eastern seaboard. Number 2. Pennsylvania. I'm a native Pennsylvanian. I had to draw the state flag once for school and another time for scouting, and you can imagine how difficult and fidgety that is. Yet despite having drawn the damn thing twice and lived in Pennsylvania for my entire lifetime of 25 years, I still don't actually know what's in the center of our flag. I just know ours is the one with the horsies on it because they're the only distinctive feature when it's hanging on a goddamn pole 100 yards away. It's also got a bald eagle because Murica! The horses aren't even a good color. What moron thought black horses on a dark blue background was a good idea? Shall we go over the 5 rules of flag design? Shame, 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 shame. Right, so here's my redesign. The design and color scheme are inspired by William Penn's coat of arms, with the black bars at the top and bottom evoking the rails of Pennsylvania's railroads. The keystone takes the central location, representing the Keystone State as well as the state capital, Harrisburg. The 2 trees represent us as the second state in the Union, as well as the 2 largest cities, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. They're trees because Pennsylvania means Penn's woods, and they're conifers like the state's official tree, the eastern hemlock. The trees and the keystone together are for the state motto, virtue, liberty, and independence, which is on the banner on our current flag. The white represents peace for Quaker origins, and the black is the coal industry which made us what we are today. The black and white color scheme is also quite striking and unique among state flags. It would allow the flag to be instantly recognized amongst the other 49, even hanging from a pole with no wind. I like black and white designs, but because I recognize that most people don't for flags that aren't Jolly Rogers, I also made this design with a more arboreal green variant. I also made that design well before I discovered the flag of Greenbelt, Maryland, before I get accused of anything. Blue and yellow are the state's official colors, so I made a version in those too, but I think it's the most generic and like it least of the bunch. Number 3. New Jersey. This is the first flag we've looked at which perfectly represents its state. What do I mean by that? We have a joke where I come from. Why does the wind blow east in Pennsylvania? Because Jersey sucks. And so does their flag. Shame! Also, Jersey, if you want people to stop associating you with organized crime, maybe don't be the only state in the Union with a severed horse head on your flag. By the way, you're next, Idaho and Vermont. New Jersey, like both states before it, is another case of the state's coat of arms being used on their flag rather than the actual seal. That being said, it still has all the usual problems of an SOS. Its one identifying feature is that unique yellowish buff field, and when your background color is the most identifiable part of your flag, you know you've got problems. Washington. Sorry, I coughed while saying Washington. New Jersey, you have cool symbols. You've got the Jersey Devil and an official state dinosaur. Those are 2 awesome things. So why is your flag so lame? For my redesign, I went with kind of an odd style. The bicolor swirl is meant to resemble a cornucopia and a Phrygian cap, representing liberty and prosperity, who appear in anthropomorphic form on the New Jersey flag holding those items. The swirl represents their coming together. The red half is also meant to look like a wave, and the buff half is a sandy coastline, symbolizing New Jersey's Atlantic beaches. The 3 flowers in the canton are meadow violets, New Jersey's state flower, and represented as the 3rd state, as well as its nickname, the Garden State. Number 4. Georgia. This is the first flag we get to look at that isn't an SOS, but it does give me the opportunity to complain about something else in the world of vexillology. Namely, people gotta stop calling this the Confederate flag. This was the official flag of the CSA. This was the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia, and this was the second Confederate naval jack used only from 1863 to 1865. I call this the rebel flag because it's used mostly by rebels, and another group of people that starts with an R. Sometimes it's called the Stars and Bars, but that's actually the name for the real Confederate flag because it actually has bars. The rebel flag just has a saltire, which is different. Georgia has had 7 official state flags in the past 120 years, and in my opinion they've just been getting worse. This was their most recently replaced design, which paid homage to 3 of their previous designs, as well as 2 U.S. national flags. Pro tip, if you want your design to reference other flags, use shared symbolism. Don't copy and paste the entire flag onto the bottom of your own. This doesn't even look like a seal on a bedsheet. It looks more like a commemorative plate. In NAVA's 2001 survey of all state and provincial flags, this came in last by a wide margin, and they said it, quote, violates all the principles of good flag design, unquote. It was known as the Barnes flag after the governor who spearheaded its adoption. Unfortunately for him, his name was securely attached to the monstrosity, and the flag was so hated that it cost him re-election. For those of you with the good sense not to follow American politics, incumbents almost never get voted out. They usually just die or retire. This flag was so atrocious it managed to do the impossible, and it was replaced a mere 2 years after its adoption. Its sheer hideousness owes in part to the fact that it was rushed through to replace its forerunner, this. This flag had to go because having the rebel flag as part of your design is controversial and unattractive. Can't imagine why. Remember, though, that this was the actual Confederate flag, and every prior official state flag of Georgia used that basic design. Even the current state flag is essentially just the Confederate flag with the seal on it. The only Georgian flag that didn't do this was the unofficial pre-1879 flag, which I shall henceforth refer to as the bedsheet banner. Congratulations, Georgia, you've somehow managed to engineer a situation in which I'm forced to begrudgingly admit that an SOS is, against all odds, the best design out of 8 options. Shame. For my redesign, I kept the 2 primary colors of the bedsheet banner. The 3 vertical gold bars represent the 3 pillars of wisdom, justice, and moderation from the state seal, where they stand for the 3 branches of government. On my flag, they also divide the blue field into 4 bars, symbolizing Georgia's status as the 4th state. The saber on the right comes from the Georgia militiaman, who stands on the seal to defend the state's constitution. It's represented on the seal as an arch supported by 3 pillars, but because this was incompatible with my stripy design, I replaced it instead with a star. Its 7 points complement the 7 stripes, and each one represents one of the terrible official designs that preceded it. I also added the star mainly to balance out the sword. Then one night I had an epiphany and changed the gold to a peach color. No points for guessing why. If you don't like this design, or maybe you're just weirdly into arches for some reason, I also prepared this alternative. It maintains the architecturally confusing 3-pillared arch and lintel motif with all its attached symbolism, and the red, white, and blue areas are a nod to previous flags without being overtly Confederate. If you don't like either of these designs, well, stuff you then. Number 5. Connecticut. This isn't actually the state seal, but it's close enough that it's not immune to a shame! The central design originates from the state seal of Saybrook Colony, which depicted 15 grapevines along with a ribbon saying Sustenit qui transtulit, meaning he who transplanted sustains. I suppose I should just be thankful that they limited themselves to only 3 grapevines in following designs. The 3 vines, each bearing 3 bunches of grapes, either represent the state's 3 oldest settlements of Hartford, Windsor, and Wethersfield, or possibly Connecticut Colony, Saybrook Colony, and New Haven Colony. They also changed the wording slightly to qui transtulit sustinet while they were at it. My redesign features 13 stylized grapes on a buff-colored escutcheon and a dark green field. The 13 grapes symbolize the original 13 colonies, and the 3 in the center represent the 3 vines bearing 3 bunches each of the original flag, along with the settlements those represented. The central 3 also form a triangle and stand for the state's 3-word motto. The entire bunch of grapes has 5 rows and 5 sides, because Connecticut was the 5th state, and if you multiply 5 by 3, you get 15, the number of grapevines on the original seal. The buff escutcheon in the green field represents the Connecticut charter being hidden inside the charter oak, being the color of parchment and the leaves. The green also represents nature and growth. This brings episode 1 to a close, but nil desperandum, Flagshaming will return next week. If you want to discuss my redesigns in this video, there's a link to them on the Vexillology subreddit in the description, along with a link to my Twitter. If you can't wait until next week for content, the first episode of my other new series, How Fascinating, premieres this Wednesday. I hope to see you there, and until then, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.